CIA Director Bill Burns understands autocrats on a personal level. When I interviewed him back in 2020, he called Vladimir Putin, who he met while serving as U.S. ambassador to Russia, an apostle of payback.
Putin today is a combustible combination of grievance and ambition and insecurity all wrapped together.
That combo exploded when Putin invaded Ukraine in February under the false pretext of wanting to denazify the country. Yeah, they actually said that. So last month, when Director Burns spoke before Congress about the internal thinking of another autocrat, Chinese President Xi Jinping, I listened.
I think the President Xi and the Chinese leadership are a little bit unsettled by what they're seeing in Ukraine. They did not anticipate the significant difficulties the Russians were going to run into.
Xi is clearly still deciding how to align his friendship without limits with Russia alongside a stable future with the West, and it's not going to be easy. In a March phone call, President Biden listed out the consequences that China would face if it supports Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And when China's ambassador to the United States appeared on Face the Nation later that month, he looked visibly pained in trying to condemn war in general without in any way condemning Russia.
Why can't you condemn this as an invasion?
Well, don't be naive. Condemnation.
It sounds naive to say that's not an invasion. It
doesn't solve the problem. I would be surprised if Russia will back down by condemnation.
How successfully will China manage this crisis? Judging by Chinese state media, they've clearly thrown in their lot with Moscow. Chinese journalists are actually embedding with Russian troops in Ukraine. It reminds you of CNN and Fox during the Iraq War. Chinese universities now have classes to provide a, quote, correct understanding of the war, with an emphasis on Russia's grievances with the West. And government newspapers have blamed the United States for the conflict in Ukraine. But there are still plenty of reasons why Beijing wants to be careful about cozying up too closely with a country about as popular on the world stage right now as North Korea, or dare I say, Will Smith. Internally, China is dealing with its slowest economic growth rates in 3 decades, made worse by knock-on challenges from their costly zero COVID policy and ineffective vaccines. And Xi also knows that Russia isn't much of a commercial trading partner, not least compared to the West. In 2021, China's trade with Russia topped out at $147 billion. Compare that with $756 billion with the US and $828 billion with the European Union, what we call capitalism with socialist characteristics. And yet, there remain geopolitical flashpoints between the United States and China that even the starkest economic calculus may not deter. Burns, for instance, doesn't think Xi Jinping has taken his eyes off a little island 100 miles east of China's coast.
Well, Congressman, I would just say analytically, I would not underestimate President Xi and the Chinese leadership's determination with regard to Taiwan.
I'm skeptical about the prospects of invasion near term, but whether Xi Jinping will ultimately go so far as to launch his own Ukraine-style war into Taiwan, given Putin's recent failures, does remain a serious concern.